Good morning, beautiful souls. Hope everybody is having a fantastic day and happy Father's Day to all of the fathers out there. It's been a little bit of time since we've been on here, but today we want to talk about conscious parenting. And so I am actually just going to go ahead and hand it over to Pat.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Um, yeah, so I think it's just been one of those themes that have been coming up. Like I know you've been doing some inner child reparenting and healing, and I've been dealing with parenting my teenager. Um, I have four kids, but yeah, right now it seems to be the 14-year-old who is leaving junior high, which we've celebrated, and going off to high school. And so it's really come full circle in the sense of rites of passage and initiation. And that's something I've been just reflecting on. With my youngest son, I did some activities around like his 10th birthday to like kind of help embrace him. But I think it's those different stages, that are met by different needs and different developmental phases. And so it's hard. Like parenting's hard already. But then when you're trying to like be consciously, I think, aware of how like everything we do ripples out, right? And so as someone that's done a lot of reparenting their own inner child and has been on a path of healing, like I don't want to screw up my kids anymore than life and circumstance, already does, because again, I feel like that's part of the structure of the universe and why we're here on this, planet. Is to learn all through all these experiences. So I think everyone is definitely born with some form of trauma and conditioning, and we're meant to. Like no one can escape that. We're absolutely meant to be screwed up somehow in our family units. And that's what we have to, right? I think that's the objective of the game of life in a way, like to overcome that, to find resiliency and strength, and to move forward, and to have the awareness, like that the subconscious doesn't have to rule us, right? We can kind of face the subconscious, face those wounds that have altered our psychological personalities, and really navigate life, from that awareness, from that self-awareness, and then choosing, right, how we want to engage and interact with others. But the subconscious is what really rules our daily interactions and our attitudes and our moods. So yeah, I think it's very messy and a complex web. There's no right or wrong, ways to do anything, and we're only going to be able to navigate from how we've been able to navigate like our own internal compass. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is looking at how to bring back, yeah, rites of passage and initiation to these young boys that are kind of embracing the early phases of manhood. Um, I know they're not getting that at all from their father. He's very much like he wouldn't even spend Father's Day with my son that's about 14. He took the 10-year-old and wouldn't take the other one because of some current trouble that he kind of got himself into. And so I'm over here like, this is wrong. Like, he needs you more than ever to step up and be a role model. And you're refusing to take him for your weekend visit. And to me, that's love with conditions, right? Like, I will love you if you can get your crap together and not have behaviors. And so I'm trying to be on the other side of that, let him know, like, I understand like your stage in life, you're searching for independence, you're kind of going to peers and able to do these behaviors and these these life experiences, but that's not gonna make you the person that you're always gonna be. It doesn't make you a bad person. um, so I think that is really important to show up for them, for the children, as they're learning adolescence and trying to find out, what it means, to be a person in today's society. And that, I think, is also where I'm looking at society and community and seeing like the failures in the structures and seeing how we're not fully structured and set up, to give each other the best. I think it's easy to cope out and be like, just drink a beer. You know what I mean? Our culture's so filled with just go to alcohol or find coping mechanisms. Um, and so when you're experimenting that with a teenager years, it's like, well, I don't want that to become an addictive personality based on your DNA. You know what I mean? Like just the way we're wired as humans. So it's been a roller coaster. But I know I'm not alone, and I think that's where like the inspiration of talking about it, and it's something we've talked about in private, is how as a parent, um I don't think it feels safe to fully express all of the overwhelm and the burdens and the hardships, because you're just seen as a failure or a bad parent. It's easy to judge, other people's kids when you see them and like, oh my God, that kid's a brat, whatever. Rather than to really look deeper at those actions and behaviors. Um, yeah, so I don't know what you want to interject on, initiation or rite of passage. I know, again, that was something we were talking about in private, even as, for girls, and what we didn't get.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think it's funny because it sounds like he's probably what I'm guessing is he's acting out because his dad isn't showing up.
Exactly.
It's like I need attention. I need to be seen. And
Yeah.
I think, with children, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. And if they're dismissed, there are different ways that they behave.
Hmm.
And it's just and that's something I think is like a built-in personality trait because it's like some will kind of close up and go quiet and others will act out, right? So
Right.
there's like this and parents, I think it's a cue, it's a sign. If somebody's acting out, there's something going on, and
Yeah.
there's a deeper concern going on there. There's something that the child is trying to express in this way, and they don't know how to express it in any other way. And sometimes that negative reinforcement is what gets them attention. So I think it's just this habit building thing, over time
Mm.
that occurs. Um, and it's because they want to be seen.
Yeah.
And they want to be heard. And if they're not going to a place where they can be seen and heard in a way that helps them to move in a direction that's meaningful, they're just gonna take whatever they get. And sometimes that's just like you said with peers. They're gonna go with their peers and, like, their peers don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying humans in general know what they're doing, right? But at least as adults, we have a little bit of understanding and wisdom, we've been
Right.
there, kinda done that, so we can kinda be like, "Yeah, don't touch the fire, it's hot." But, their friends don't know that, they haven't even touched fire, so how would they know, right? So then they go and touch the fire, get burned, and some people need to be like, touch the fire 10 times
Right.
before and some people never learn, right? But and then that's a scary thing because it's like, are they gonna continue the pattern? And that's something I used to tell my niece,
Mm.
because with her, she was, at some point just jumping from job to job to job to job. Like, she would get a job, then she'd quit, and it was always everybody else's drama. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
her, right? She was just this perfect, little thing. I'm like, okay, no, you're not. First of all, I know that you're not because I know you. But secondly, I told her, look, you are literally setting the pattern for your life.
Mhm.
If you continue this down this road, you're going to be doing this in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. It's just going to be a pattern that you've set for yourself. You could break patterns, but it's going to be harder.
Right.
So, you can break it now. And that's what's important, right? And so eventually she did. And so now she's sustained a job and it's been a long time. So I'm like, good job. At least a year. Give it a year. Just 1
Right.
year somewhere. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be eternity, but the pattern of, like, just quitting so easily, right? And it shows up in all these different areas. So, they don't understand, children don't understand that what they're doing now is going to have consequences when they're older, and
Right.
when they're young, they think it's cute. That's what I told my other niece. I said, "You think it's cute that you're gonna be living here with my mother, right? With their grandma." I'm like, "That's not cute. It's not cute when you are 30, 40, 50. Maybe it
Mm.
is when you're 19, 20, but as you get older, it's not." And
Yeah.
I don't mean like living with them, but I mean just living and not doing anything, right?
Right.
Um, maybe if she had a job and she was working and helping out, that's a whole different story. But just living there and not doing anything at all, like, no. I said, that's the pattern you're going to set for yourself. So I think with the rites of passage and initiation, the way I see it is that it is a pattern setting for the future.
Mm.
And how can you step into this next phase boldly with intention, right?
Mhm.
Proper intention, so that you can actually be a good human being or steward to the planet, right? Rather than disruptive or crazy or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And there are some very, very, very pivotal points in a child's life, in a person's life. But as children, there's some major points of like rites of initiation passages that we have to go through that we don't as society. You're absolutely correct. And one of those is your teen years when you go through puberty. And that's like the worst phase of all.
Oh my
Seen it.
gosh. It's terrible.
It's like, and the reason why we call it terrible, because it really doesn't have to be, is because we don't have proper training or proper rites of passage or initiations or rituals for the children that are going through these phases as a society as a whole. You can go to like reservations. I know in New Mexico, because I'm from there, they still will have, it's probably few and far between, but they still have ceremony for women and men when they go through puberty.
Mm.
And the women have a whole different kind of ceremony for, when they're ready to menstruate or when they get their first menstruation and stuff like that, and then boys have a whole different type of initiation or rites of passage.
Mm.
So, some cultures are still holding it, but as American culture, no. We don't,
No.
you learn about this stuff in school, which is sex ed. And what is that? It's like some
Right.
generic, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember getting deodorant and like laundry soap in the 5th grade when they like take the girls in one room and the boys in the other. And they like go through all the charts of like the ovaries and, here's what happens to have a baby.
They
But
give you laundry soap?
yeah, they give you like a little packet of laundry soap to wash your clothes.
Are you serious? That is
Yeah.
wow. 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 Just
Yeah,
wow.
like I'm in 5th grade, man. Like, and I was a late bloomer. I really was. So I had massive insecurity because I wasn't like developing. It felt like as fast as some of the other girls. And so, like, I remember like stuffing my bra
Oh,
for a
okay.
small phase because I felt like really insecure. But oh my goodness, yeah. There was no real,
And
like
I was opposite. I had
yeah.
all the boobs.
Right.
I was trying to unstuff it. I couldn't.
Right, like duct taping your chest down to make it flat like a board.
No, there was no even doing that, Pam, okay? Very, very, very there was a lot going on, and there still is, and there always will be, but there was a lot going on when I was young, and it was like, yeah, there was no hiding it? I think me and this girl Shelly were the ones that were the big-chested women, girls,
Yeah.
young girl, and it just happened overnight too. It was like and I was like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" So, it was whatever, and that was hard because, of course, the boys were, like, raging hormones, and that was not comfortable, right? Boys
Right.
trying to throw things down my shirt. I mean, it was just whatever, right? And so and doing stupid things like, "Oh, can I take it out?" If they would throw literally and it goes shoop right down my blouse.
Oh
Yeah,
my
and
gosh.
then boys being like, "Yo, can I take it out?" Like, laughing, like, they thought it was funny.
That's
I'm like, "Really?"
crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I've always been yeah, see? So I've always been that was my rite of passage? Really? Like, what?
Right?
Basketball with the boobs. That's great, thank you. Um
Yeah. I remember I had a boy put gum in my hair. I had really, really long hair, and, yeah, it's
Oh,
crazy, like, "Oh, that's how they like you." Really? Like, hostile, like, aggressive behaviors, but that's how you're liked. That's
yeah.
really, like, definitely set the tone.
Right? And so I think this rites of passage, I think is critical. And, that's why, peers have become this family to these children because, even like for us, we have gangs.
Yeah.
There was a lot of gang stuff going on in Albuquerque, where I was from. And that's why, because they wanted to feel like they had a rites of passage, and that's what they provide. So
Mm,
gangs provide that, right? And so at that young age of puberty, right, these boys would go into that type of initiation, and it was aggressive, which makes
mhm.
sense, right? Because it's like, "Oh, you gotta get jumped to come in, which
Yeah.
is like, that was their way to so then they felt like cool and like they were part of something. So it's weird because I think that as humans, we reconstruct these initiations and it's misdirected or misguided. And I don't think they
Absolutely.
realize that. So, and then it sets a pattern for their life. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's like, okay, now this is your initiation. Now you're in. Now this is for life. And so they're thinking, like, yeah, this is for life. And some people break away from that, but some are so damaged by it that they end up in these behaviors and they just spiral. I think with a lot of my friends, I've said this a lot of times on here, is that a lot of the people that I was connected to, um, even with gang members and stuff, are dead. So
Mhm.
they've passed away. They are in prison, um, or they're dead in prison, or just messed up. You know what I mean, on drugs.
Yeah.
So those that's kind of what the result has been, and I can tell you that a lot of them are no longer here. A lot of
Yeah.
them have passed away, a lot
Yeah.
of the people that I used to hang out with. And, so and it's funny because I was talking to my sister about a lot of these guys, and for me, because I was never part of gangs, I didn't really like that, but that was, like, the people that were around, is that a lot of these guys became really good friends, and I never saw them like that. They had this bleeding heart that they showed us, and my sister reminded me of something. She goes, "Yeah, but they didn't show that to everybody, they showed that to us
Mm.
because people were afraid of them." And I'm
Right.
like, "That's true." Like, I didn't even think about that, right? Because I didn't see them like that. They to me, they were dorks and they were, you know what I mean? But to the people around, there were people that really feared them because they
Yeah.
were crazy, you know what I mean? Like, when they had to maybe protect what they thought was gonna be taken or whatever it was. And these individuals were just they were beautiful souls. They just didn't have the right rites of initiation. They didn't have the right passage. They were put into, like, again, these gangs. They didn't
Hmm.
know anything else.
Right.
They didn't have something as a placeholder there, where in the past, the guys would have maybe went to sweat and maybe they still took out the aggression, but they did it in a different kind of way. They were taught how to take it out in a proper way, that would, not harm, but, like, give back,
Right.
in some way. Give back to community, like, hunting is a big thing, I think, for that age group and stuff like that, learning how to hunt, learning how to do all that, and then you bring all those gifts back to the community, um,
Right.
in some way, you know what I mean? And then you're there to
Hmm.
protect the community and give your gifts of protection and strength, and that's not being taught.
Right.
Obviously, it's not being taught because that's not what our society does. That's not where they
Right.
put their value.
Right. Exactly. And then I just think like that strong. I mean, because we live in a patriarchy, right? I mean, there's no denying the patriarchal system is
Yep,
all around us.
yep,
And with that, I don't know, there's just been this wounded, toxic, masculine energy, like, which women carry as well. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, I just feel like for children who are really being raised by like single moms or you know what I mean, like just or even having really like toxic fathers, it is really hard to like how do we break out of the patriarchy, like how do we change that, like how do we bring back initiation and I mean in just the past year that I've spent in the school system that I was in, which was just honestly a very supportive, beautiful, is really really just I felt appreciated there. um but I still saw so much of traumatized children and just again even the school not fully understanding like neglect and abuse and like all of those things, and trying to just kind of correct the behaviors, and it's so deeply ingrained beyond that. When a kid is in nothing but full blown survival mode, they can't show up and sit at their desk and worry about freaking 2 plus 2 or like coloring, a picture. You know what I mean? Their mind is in nothing but fight or flight mode all day. So I don't know. So I guess I've just been questioning us as a society and a culture and where we're at and where we're going, and I don't have the answers. Like I know that for sure. I have maybe some ideas. But I think again it's going to take all of us as a collective to stop dismissing and avoiding these situations and really fully recognize and understand that what we've created, especially now, I think with the disconnection of human interaction because of social media and cell phones and technology and how fast paced that is and makes life, fast paced. Kids are growing up instantly overnight. They're raising themselves because even economically, if you're not I think, financially stable, then you're working multiple jobs, you know what I mean? So there's like this gap and this lack. Um and then looking at COVID, we're 4 years, I guess, right? Really kind of past that big blow up year of everybody retreating and living remotely. Um and I think even now like being able to see the kids like my kid, one of my youngest was in kindergarten when COVID hit. So the last 2 years have been normal school years for him, third and fourth grade. So he didn't even get that foundational start of normal school structure. He got like apocalyptic world school structure. And then the other one was in fifth grade. And so I've seen like the whole junior high years has, been hell. And the teachers are underpaid, underappreciated, like, burnt out. Like I get it. I know. I've chosen, not to fully go down that path, because I don't want to take on all that burden. Um, but it's just like at some point, I think we need to start creating programs, and we need to start altering the school curriculums, and we need to really bring in this deeper aspect of self-awareness through psychology and self-regulation and the nervous system and the neurological system, and really truly understand, like, we're not we're just not what we once were, right? This industrial world doesn't exist. And I think even, moving past this 9 to 5, that the schools really were set up to condition us to be a workforce. Um, that everything's shifting and moving. And with that, like, we as humans need to take responsibility and accountability, and especially the people who I think are in government, who are in, those CEO positions of companies and corporations, especially like the food industry. Like, stop freaking poisoning us so that way you can feed the healthcare system. Because that's not the life I want to give to my children. And so I'm feeling just frustrated, I think, because I'm trying to provide better for myself. I'm trying to provide better for my kids. And all I see is the structures and the systems that want to keep us as like slaves. Um, and so I am in a space where I'm grateful I have you, and we have this aligned vision and purpose, right? And knowing like we're here to create something that's to give back and to help, humanity and the collective, should they choose to take that and walk that path. And I just feel like initiation and rite of passage is something that we should be thinking about and considering, and looking at from an individual family point of view to like community and school based. um and I know, like, yeah, there's fifth grade graduations, and eighth grade graduations and dances, and then your high school prom. But once every like 4 years, like, I don't think that's enough. And I don't think a school graduation and a dance is enough. um so I'm just trying to get, I guess, into this creative flow of what would it look like and what should we create. And so for like you and I have definitely talked about like retreat spaces and summer camps, and doing it rites of passage and initiations, for different age children, and what would that look like for young boys, and what would that look like for young girls. um so I think just even bringing that awareness through this podcast episode into the collective, to get other people maybe reflecting and thinking and speaking up, and maybe taking action steps where they can, that's going to be the ripple effect that we need.
Yeah, and it's creating an entirely new system, because what you're talking about, like, so you can't. I loved it. So there was this professor I talked to one time, Dr. Martin is his name, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go inside the structures and just mantle them and change them, and he's like, you can't kill a virus with the virus. And I was
Yeah.
like, which that right there, what he told me, just that is why I was like, okay, we can't go in and change the structures. We have to create brand new structures. And that's what I've been trying to, really let land with people, because we are going to continue to have these dialogues. We are going to continue to be frustrated, by the systems. We are going to continue to see inequity and all these other things show up over and over again. We're going to continue to see, what we call women's rights taken away. We're going to because the system itself was not designed for equity. It wasn't designed for all these things. It was designed for a specific purpose. And in that structure, it needs to be dismantled or just reconstructed, period. Like, I
Mm,
think it just needs to be, like, completely just and new structures need to emerge. And that new structure of emergence has to be or gets to be, um, based in what I would call harmony, which
mhm.
allows for that energy potential for both the feminine and masculine energies to harmonize and heal. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that starts when they're little. It does start. It starts from birth, really, right? When
Yeah.
they're born, and their connection to mother, for one, right? And then the community. It, I believe it takes a community. It does take a community. It takes all the people to raise a child, and that's the truth. I think I had talked about it last time. Some guy's research, it's just popping up on the internet, I think, and it's gonna start probably making waves because the video is in circulation already. But he was a what is it called? Can't think of the word. Bio oh, biologist. There you go. I'm gonna say biologist. I don't know what kind of word I was trying to make up there, but it's funny. He's a biologist. Sorry, guys. My brain isn't functioning so great. But oh my god, I love it. You do bloopers on here, it'd be funny.
Right.
Anyway, he's a biologist, and he was talking about how the babies, the monkeys, and I can't re it was orangutans? No, I can't remember what monkey it was. Chimpanzees? Anyway, how the baby, when it's born, all of the love goes into that baby. And the entire community and everybody puts all this love into this child to nurture it, to grow it up. And so it becomes like this most loving little monkey, right?
Mm,
And and he said that he believes that humans were once that way, that we were like that, and somehow we thought that we weren't like that, that we are really good inherently wanting the species to survive. Um but I think we've kinda disconnected from that, and we can't because patriarch doesn't have this nurturing side to it. There
right.
isn't that there isn't community. It's really dog eat dog. That's
Mhm.
that's really what you boil it down to a phrase,
Yeah.
it's dog eat dog. That's patriarchy. And and corporation and all that kind of stuff, right, leads to capitalism, all this. It doesn't really the way that society's structured doesn't really aim to do that. It doesn't aim to put everything into the child. It wasn't developed or created for that, you
Right.
know? Like, when they say all these things are lying, that's not if you look at the construction of the way things were built, in their symbolism itself, there's not inclusion of everything. It's a pyramid. And so it's not including what about the downward facing pyramid? Why can't we have both, right? We don't. We have one. It's very one-sided and it leads to this very cold, scientific, mechanistic worldview paradigm where you're not having this inclusion of the child, right? Because now, like you said, the parent has to work 500 jobs. They can't be there. So how can the community show up? The community that shows up for the kid is the peers because
Mm,
they're having to show up for each other. They
yeah.
don't have any like how the hell who's going to show up for the kid, right? But in the past, it was community that helped raise the kid. It was
Yeah.
the community that showed up for the child. That they said, "Okay, now we're gonna pass this wisdom down to you." These kids don't wanna hear our wisdom, you know why? Because 'Cause we're not even in their life. We're not we how can a parent be present in their life fully? And then
Mm,
now they're gonna listen to your wisdom? They don't even see you.
right.
There's still this, like, distrust because it's like, "But you're not even here. So I'm gonna listen to the people that are here." And, this is a big reason why I didn't have children because a part of me knew that in our even our tiny little family that we have, because my family is not very big, right? It's me and my sister, and that's it. And she had 3 children, and in my mind, I wanted to provide those resources for those children. Like, I'm like, they're gonna have me, they're gonna have, my mom, my dad, my sister, they're all of us together will pour all of the resources we can into them to give them their best chance, right?
Mm,
And that's the mindset that I had, you know, was, "Okay, how do we help? How do I support in that?" To give back. And a lot of it was, there were some rough times, and I'll tell you, that's how I know the puberty stage is like, oh my God. I I wanted to wring their necks at the at those ages. Something just changes in kids. I was like, whoa, who are you? Like you were so sweet and innocent, and all of a sudden you're just like attitude. I don't want to talk to you. Like I'm not cool. Like who cares about you? Type attitude.
right.
And I'm like, "What is going on?" And I literally had to work. There was a point where my sister was like, with her middle child, was like, "I don't know what to do. Can she stay with you?" She had to come stay with me and live with me because my sister didn't know what to do. But if we looked at it as from like the community perspective, right? It was like, "Oh, of course I'm gonna take her in." Because she is part of in my heart of hearts, part of my responsibility to help nurture this child so that she can have her best life. You know what I mean?
Mm,
And she responded to me better than my sister.
yeah.
So so I was able to say, "Okay, yes, come." But I didn't have children of my own that I had to say, "Well, I'm gonna have to kinda," you know what I mean? So I was able to take her in, and I was able to kinda work with her, and it was all for good. You know what I mean? And my sister understood that too, that like, okay, it's a community. She's like never kept me from her children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She'd be like, "Can you help me out with this?" Yeah, of course. My nephew, when he was going through his kind of journey. He came to me for he was big into the video game stuff. So he had gained a lot of weight. He was it was bad.
Mm,
And he saw that I was always working out and active and stuff, and he was like, "Auntie, I want help with this." And I said, "Okay." And I took him to the gym, and I think a lot of that was his rite of passage, right? Because he was already kind of hitting that teenage years and he wanted to change, and but he had me. And so I took him to the gym and I showed him how to let that aggression out in a healthy way, you know what I mean? To eat
yeah.
properly, do all these things, and he's grown to be like all of them have grown to be very just awesome, you know? So it does take a village.
Yeah.
I mean, it does, and that's gonna take restructuring society, and it can't happen. It's nearly. I mean, I think you could do it in these systems maybe on the outside, but it's gonna be hard because think about the rites of passage when they happen. You build bonds with the people you go through initiation with. If it's a
Mm,
single initiation, you build a bond with the person who helped you through that initiation. Um, It's kinda hard when you don't have community support to continue the growth of that initiation,
yeah.
because then they kinda just go back into society,
Right.
and now they may not even have, people to talk to
Right.
that haven't gone through the same kinda ceremony or something, you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it's just too it's a very this is like it's a big, 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 big conundrum here,
Yeah.
but I know, it's like, my god.
And
But
I think
go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say too, like for my own personal path, I feel like whatever I missed out on in the earlier years, like the soul, right? We've definitely talked about like the soul's alchemy, right? Our own internal compass and listening to that. And I feel like with plant medicine, that was right, like my kind of rite of passage when I went to South America. I didn't see that at the time. I didn't understand it until we got into our degree program. And, I started like really reading about rite of passage and learning stuff. But I realized, like, had I been 12 or 13 and was kind of like maybe stripped, of all possessions and belongings and kind of sent out into the land and be like, here, go on a quest and come back. And if you survived, like you can live, with it, with
Mhm.
the tribe because you made it. And if not, well, we'll have a burial for you. and,
Mhm.
um, but I recognize that like my whole vocation to South America was never supposed to go like perfect and smooth because that was my rite of passage. So I do truly believe that the soul will find callings, but again, it's up to us. Do we listen to those callings, or do we let fear, persuade us from going into the journey? um and then I just think with the whole like structural aspect of it, like that's where I think I'm feeling frustrated because there's like this sense of helplessness that like the structures in place for whatever bigger purpose that's beyond just me. Like, I truly believe like Gaia has her own kind of hero's journey and is going through her own stages of evolution. um and so we're just a part of the bigger overall narrative, that's being mirrored through us. And so it's just like, okay, accepting like it's not right or wrong or beautiful or ugly. But like you said, just finding ways to just continue to show up for ourselves and the people in our lives, so that they can have the best chance. And I think that's the hard part of parenting is like you have all of that wisdom finally that you want to share and pass on to the younger generation, but you just see their eyes glaze over and like they see you in lecture mode and they're just completely shut off and tuned out. So that in itself is like just like, oh, frustrating because I don't feel like I can get through or make a difference in any way. And so then it comes back to like, how do I make a difference? How do I help? Because I used to think of that too. Like, I want to take down the school structure. We need to redo it, and I'm going to work from the inside out, and be that. But then recognizing like everyone within that school structure sees the flaws, but I think a lot of people just accept it and give up and don't try and fight the battle and don't try to be the chink, the clink or whatever. You know what I mean? The I'm saying like chains that to help it start breaking apart.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, but see, again, the school systems or whatever, even fighting it, it doesn't matter
Yeah.
because it's structured for a purpose, and that
Right.
structure doesn't, so it is a losing battle. You're gonna lose the battle and the war. The entire structure has to be reconstructed.
Mhm.
That's the point, you know what I mean? You
Right.
can't that's don't fight you can't fight a virus with a virus, like, you just can't.
Right.
That's why when you're looking at these things, especially education systems and stuff like that, they're within the current structure of the patriarch.
Yeah.
They're not outside of it. They're even structured that way. They're structured as a pyramid.
Yeah.
And there's a principal, and then there's the administration underneath, and then, there's this bigger administration for the school system, and then there's the Department of Education, and the Department of Education has a hierarchy, and all of the way that that's structured, it and then the Department of Education is structured by the government and the government, so it's like it's layer upon layer upon
Yeah.
layer upon layer patriarchy. And so you're gonna lose. You might win a couple of battles, but the war you'll never win.
Right.
You're always gonna be fighting, and that system is designed for that. It leads to war, obviously. Those systems lead to war because that's what If you just have patriarchy, with no matriarch, what do you get? War. That's why we're
Ex-
always at war. We're always battling something. You know what I mean? It's just, and people can't see that the tiniest thing has led to this big monstrosive, crazy structure. The education system itself for these children will never be what it's supposed to be. It's designed specifically for what it's doing. In fact, it's doing what it's supposed to.
Right.
I'll just say that. It's doing what it's supposed to.
Oh, it
There is no
absolutely is.
yeah, it's doing what it's and can you be mad at it for doing what it's supposed to? Well, you could, but rather than be mad at the structures, recreate the structure. That's the point, you know? We
Right.
have to redesign and reimagine a new world. If we can't reimagine a new world, we're doomed.
Right.
I mean, our species is, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know, is that bad? Maybe it's time for a new species to emerge, maybe the human species it will be dissolved in this round. I don't know. I don't
Mm.
know. I do know that in the current moment, though, we do have individuals and children being born and so much suffering within these poor kiddos that, something does need to happen. I think the immediate thing is linking them with people who they can talk to outside the family, that
Yeah.
they can trust and that they can talk about those things and let them go, and have, maybe another community that they could be a part of that kinda takes the place of, if their peers are not, kind of going in the direction that you think is healthy for them, that you find them a community that can, or that you hook them up with a community that can, you know?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
getting to the root causes of why they're wanting, like, obviously, there's I know we talked about neglect earlier. It could be that they feel neglected and that they need somebody to see them, hear them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so how do we do that? That's something we can do in the immediate, but the whole system itself has to be completely redesigned. There's just no way. I mean, I know this is part of the research I'm going to be doing because there is no way. You don't it's never going to provide what you want,
Right.
ever. And you're gonna spend your lifetime fighting a losing battle. Like, it wouldn't even make sense, right? So, it's and that's hard because how do you redesign and restructure a new society? That takes years. That takes
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of years, you know? And, I mean, look at some of these civilizations and societies, they're thousands of years old, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like so, I mean, it is a bigger issue, and it's very complex. But I do think that a camp for, at least a camp during their, break would be really kind of cool, like you said, to give them an idea of that there is this other way that of existence. There are these people who truly want to be part of a bigger, larger community. That there are other kids who are wanting to, be a part of that, and giving them hope that there is something there being developed for them. Like, this is being developed for you guys, not for us. Because,
Right.
it might in a little bit of time, but the reality is our time is we still have some time. I'm not saying we don't, because we have quite a bit of time. We do, but it's
Yeah.
not as long as time as they have. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, we're really trying to build a future for them more than we are for ourselves. Like,
Right.
that's kind of
Exactly.
true. Like, we're hoping they're gonna be able to benefit from the work that we do, you
Right.
know? Right. So, giving them a purpose is a thing, something to look forward to, something to aspire to, that they don't have to give up on hope. And maybe that's it. Maybe we need to let this generation know, like, "Hey, there are people for you that are trying to understand how to support what the shit that has been left by
Right.
the generations before us and the generations now." that just can't seem to get their head out of their ass. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's about them. It's all about them. Like these people, I just can't. It is. It's all about them. Like I'm like, really? It's oh, these corporate. We're gonna. It's all about me. It's all about me and my. I'm like, get out of here. Like honestly, with your hyper ego or whatever it is, like stop. Like seriously, stop. But it is. It's about them. They're not really thinking about the futures and the children and the. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
It's disgusting. And don't get me started because I will go on a whole other tangent that's not even about this, which it is. It's all interconnected, as we know. Living systems. If you don't know what that theory is, go look at it. And we did this pretty cool pie chart in our coursework where it was like talk about one particular topic, put it in the middle, and then everything that touches that topic. Right, and if you looked at, for instance, like childhood, right? If we looked at it and what's going on and rites of passage or, the education system, and we looked at everything that has been impacted or that impacts the education, it's such a complex problem
Right.
that you start looking at it and saying, "There's no how do we solve this?" And that's how life has become for us. It has become so complex that we need supercomputers to solve the issues that we're facing. That's the magnitude of where we are. And I'm saying, why are we trying to solve the issue? Let's just redesign a whole new system.
Right.
Let's
Exactly.
just
And
create
that's where,
let's just create a whole new system because this one ain't functioning right. It's like too complex. Like life is complex, but it's actually quite simple. You know
right.
what I mean?
Absolutely. Like we make it so much more than it needs to be that we're just doing it to ourselves, burning ourselves out and stressing ourselves out, and it doesn't have to be that way at all. And I think that's where I'm just really at is like why are we doing this? Why can't we come together collectively and recognize it's not working? It's not working for us, it's not working for the future children. Like we have to do something. And it's like I don't know, we just roll over and we just take it. We just lay there and we're just like, well, it's all we've ever known. And I don't know, it just I think it brings out my inner activist that
Yep.
like wants to have a cause to be like passionate and purposeful about. And then when you do align with the other people who are on the same wavelength of you, and it's like, well, why aren't we rising up? Why aren't we making change? Why aren't we doing anything? Like, why do we feel so helpless as a collective? And why do we think America's so freaking wonderful? And you know what I mean? And there's so many flaws, and there's so many things that are just not perfect and wonderful. And I think we just need to wake up from that illusion. Um,
We're drowning in
yeah,
somebody's nightmare because it's
right.
not like they say the American dream and I call it the American nightmare.
Yeah,
And we're literally drowning in it.
yeah,
And people don't understand that. They think it's a political, move. It's not a political like who moves into office, I mean. It's not who's the
right.
next person that I this is the one thing I think I told you, and I think I might have said it on here. I'm like, look, people, if either one of those, if there was an apocalypse, those two candidates would be in the bunker together, chummy chum, talking it out, and
Right,
not give two shits about the people that are fighting over them. They don't care. They don't care about us. Neither one of them do. So,
right,
like, and they don't care about the children. They will literally push the children out of their bunker so they could survive. Like, come on, let's be
right,
real. They care about themselves, and that's that. It's very simple. We don't even need to go into like this heavy, heavy rhetoric about, oh, the psychological, blah, 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 blah. The bottom line is they care about themselves, they care about their image,
right.
they care
Status
about
and money.
power. Yeah, status, money, and power and
Yeah,
control. I mean, it's simple. We don't need to make it so complex. Both of them,
Right.
both the candidates, all the candidates, almost anybody who runs for any political party, in my personal opinion, because people know you can't change the system. There is, if those people going into political seats believe that they're going to change the system, there are idiots. And I don't even know why they're idiots. You don't go in to change the system. The system changes you.
Right.
And there is no other way because the system wasn't designed. It was already designed the way it was designed. Like, for me, it's mind boggling that people can't see it. That to me, I'm like, in my mind, people do see it,
Right.
but they don't. And they don't. And I'm like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
everybody's late to the party or something, and I'm here thinking everybody's at the party, and that's not the case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these people in the systems never ever like they might be like, sure, do a rites of passage for the children. You know what I mean? Go ahead, do it. And then when they see it working, it's like, oh no, I'm sorry. There's a policy that says that you can't da 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 da, and you're gonna have to sign this waiver. And no,
Yeah.
and now it's out of this, and now that's considered child abuse and da 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 da. Yeah, we actually use this model that comes from the clinical da 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 da. You're like, oh my god, okay, fine, never mind, because your way's working so well and producing all of these very very healthy humans. Get out
Right.
of here. Like, it's obvious. It's so obvious. It's almost embarrassing that people can't see it. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, that's how I feel. And yeah, maybe I'm being forthright and maybe I'm being a little assertive in my statements, but to me, it's the truth. It's a comedy. It's comical almost. I'm like, and people are playing at it. And I'm just like, are you serious? Like, you really stand for this person that you don't even know, who does not give two shits about you. Really? You really believe you're going to change the system? Really?
Yeah.
You're late for the show, bro. Then that's why we're doomed, because people are not, like you said, they're just numbing out and they're just like, oh, well, then I'll fight the good fight. Well, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're not going to win the war because the entire system wasn't designed for that.
Right.
So for me, it's like it makes complete sense when they're like, oh, we had this and now it's reversed, with the whole women stuff. I'm like, it makes total sense. It was never designed for women. The entire system was never designed for women. What are you talking about? Now people are freaking out. I'm like, why? We need to restructure. We need to start looking at it from a different perspective. Restructure, redesign, recreate,
Mhm.
and look at what systems might look like the way that we think would harmonize and support systems that help children move through life and go through these rites of passage as the norm. Like, that's
Mhm.
normal. Like, it's a normalized thing,
Yeah.
right? Not like it's "Ooh, what is that?" You know what I mean? Or we have to get permission slips to have children go through this. You know what I mean? It's like, no, this is something these kids are going to do because it's part of the curriculum,
Right.
because that's the structure. That's how it was designed.
Right. It's a natural process of
Uh-huh.
your
Yep.
awareness unfolding and your developmental stages, coming into play.
Yep.
Um, so it is important to recognize and honor that part of the human journey.
Mhm.
Because like I said, that the hero's journey structure um, is something we are all in, whether or not we're recognizing it and aware of it. Like there's a rhythm and a rhyme to
Mhm.
to being human and to the processes that we go through. It's not just born, live, go through a couple of phases over the decades and then just die of old age. But there's a real purpose between each gateway. Um,
Mhm. Yep.
so yeah, I'm right there. I'm ready to just recreate and just like again not put my energy and time into the systems that are currently there. Because I know like I don't fit in. I know I'm here to kind of build something new and be part of that shift that I think again is also unfolding organically. Um, but it's
Yeah.
good, I think, just to even have the conversations though, just to bring it to like the forefront of like the collective's mind and awareness, and really just sit there and ask ourselves, what was our rites of passage, because I feel like unless you're really like maybe Jewish with the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs, you know what I mean? Like, unless there's like maybe like the Catholic where I know like you're baptized and you have your first communion. So like I think in religion, they're trying to stay with that alchemical process and trying to honor like those rites, but
Hmm.
still it's through religious dogma and control. Um
Yep. Yep.
And so there's still like a confinement to it, and this idea of like, right, being good or bad, and
Yep.
sin
Sex
and
is
heaven
bad.
and hell and whatever, and
Sex is
your
bad.
reward will come in the next life, and like
Sex is bad. It's
yeah,
terrible when you're going through the Catholic, you know, rites of passage. You must not have sex, you dirty person,
yeah,
until you are married, which is like, okay, I get it, but they don't tell you why. They're not so the rites of passage is so generic that they just make you fear sex, that you're like a
right,
dirty person and you're gonna go to hell if you do it,
yep,
rather than being like, no, we wait because, and then tell us why are we waiting? I don't understand. I have all this energy. I'm supposed to use it, right? No, you're not. Okay, then what? You know what I mean? Like, then
right,
what am I supposed to do with all the energy that's showing up sexually? Am I just supposed to ignore it? It's like this like watered down rites of passage. It's like, oh, you get to eat the bread and drink the wine and say a couple of prayers and memorize them verbatim. And you know what I mean? It's like, what? It's like it's just a watered down version of control. So
right,
it's like, okay, but let's go through the real initiation where we're letting people know, yeah, you're gonna have sexual energy because that's where it starts. That's where the rite of passage really starts, is when our sexual energies start to ignite. Because that's
right,
like gonna drive our will when you think about it, right? And then once that energy starts to circulate, everything starts to change. Everything. And
hmm,
so it's like, but nobody really sits down and talks to us about what it means and how to use it, and how we can use it for creativity. And no, that's not what they tell you. They just say, don't do it, you'll go to hell. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, great. Thanks. That was very helpful. And so now when I have this energy, I'm a bad person for having sexual energy. Everybody has damn sexual energy. So you're telling me everybody on the world is bad and this is a bad thing. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is stupid. So it's a lot of untangling. That's why I said it's such a complex issue.
mm,
And the confines of all those religions, not all of them, most of them, I will say, I'm not gonna, you can figure it out for yourself, are in the confines of this patriarchal system, which is still not designed for harmony. It's designed for patriarchy, period.
yeah,
So
power
how
and
can you be
control,
mad? How can you be mad? You know what I mean? It's like, well, okay, they got us. Now what? You know what I mean?
yeah,
So, like, bitching about it ain't gonna do anything. I don't care how much time people bitch on Facebook, social media, all these outlets, Twitter, Tweeter, Twitter, whatever they do. eh, all of that, you can bitch all you want. It's not gonna change it. You have to go out and change the damn world. You have to be the change. You have to be the one who says, and that's hard. Who the hell is brave enough to do that shit? You know what I
yeah,
mean? It takes a lot of bravery and courage, and that's why people haven't collectively come together, because they're dealing with all of this shit, and the system will suck you right back in, and people are too afraid not to be sucked right back in. They just, "Okay, well, I'm just gonna surrender to it again." I mean, it's fucking crazy. Excuse my language. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip, complete Freudian slip.
That
But
inner
I'm
passion,
passionate about this. I know some of this is passion coming out. So,
right?
anywho, all right, we were past an hour, and I'm just gonna start going all the way off topic. So, um, it just got me all fired up. Um, but there you have it. Conscious parenting. Hopefully we talked about conscious parenting enough. Um, but rites of passage for children. So if you guys have a fantastic day, follow us on womenofconsciousness.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And we are having a goddess circle coming up this week on Friday, for those ladies who are interested. You can find it on our Facebook. And the time and date, you just need to go to Eventbrite, sign up, and we'll send you the link. All right. Anything else, Pam?
No, that's it on my end. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, have a good day. We love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.